IK Multimedia's TONEX One Plus pedal will be available very shortly. Perhaps by the time you watch this it's already out, and I just spent the last week testing the original TONEX One pedal, first released 2 years ago in 2024, almost to the day. TONEX One is available for purchase today for €149 on Thomann and $199 on Sweetwater. I bought it for 135 of my own euros from a local music shop, and I've been playing it non-stop for the past 7 days. In this video, I'll be giving you my opinions and conclusions about TONEX One, telling you who I think this is for and who this is not for, and I'll talk about the new TONEX One Plus and what I think about that upgrade, at least on paper, and if it's worth going for that one instead. This video will be divided into 5 parts. First we'll discuss the features of the pedal, then amp sounds followed by effects, then build quality, and finally who the pedal is for. To start us off, you'll be watching a 1-minute demo entirely recorded through the TONEX One pedal. The amp models for each guitar part will appear on screen, and if you like them, they should be very easy to find in your TONEX app just by searching the amp names. See you in a minute. And guys, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. I'm currently at 720 subscribers, but can we get to 1,000? With your help, I'm sure we can, so please hit that subscribe button, it would be super helpful. Alright, back to the video. The pedal is very small and has very few buttons to press, but it can do way more than I expected, and operating it is actually very straightforward. But you will need to read the quick start guide in IK Multimedia's website, but don't worry, it's a very light read and everything is very clearly presented. The TONEX One can hold 20 presets inside, and you can configure 2 of them to be accessible via the pedal switch, which means that in practice you can set TONEX to function in one of 2 ways. Either in A/B modes, which means you can assign one preset to slot A and one preset to slot B, and those presets can include an amp, a cab, and all the effects you want from the TONEX suite of effects. Or you can set it to on-off mode, which means you can have one preset and you can turn it on or off, as you would in a regular pedal. The on-off mode is usually used to turn TONEX One into a distortion, fuzz, or overdrive pedal, because as you probably know, TONEX software can not only model amps, but also drive pedals. So you can potentially use your TONEX One as either your amp, with 2 presets which can be clean and dirty, or dry and wet, or you can use it as a clone overdrive, a boost pedal, or even a fuzz. And of course, you can do any other combination of the things I just said, so long as you keep it to 2 presets in A/B modes, or 1 preset in on-off mode. So that's a tremendous amount of use cases right there. Another very cool thing you can do with this, which I found to be more of an extra than core functionality, is use it as an audio interface. You can connect TONEX One to your computer via USB-C and start recording into your DAW. But please don't go thinking this replaces a professional audio interface, because it doesn't. It's good to have for demos and taking on vacations, but for final recordings, an audio interface is still the way to go. And here's a few more hardware-based features that come included. There's the tuner, which works by flashing the lights on the knobs. Pretty cool if you ask me. You can also change the color of said lights and customize them, and the output of the pedal can be used as both mono or stereo TRS, which means you can use a stereo TRS cable to get stereo sound out of the pedal. And it can even double as a 6.3mm headphone jack, which in my opinion is going above and beyond. So in terms of hardware features, IK Multimedia did a really solid job with this one. On the software side, there's also a bunch of stuff to unpack. You get two apps with the pedal, the TONEX app and the TONEX Editor app. The TONEX app is the standalone version of the TONEX plugin, and it's used for playing TONEX tone models directly in your computer without using the pedal. In my opinion, this app serves as the central hub of the TONEX ecosystem, and personally I've been using it pretty much every day for the past year. It's very useful, but both the UI and the performance of the app needs to keep improving. With the TONEX One pedal, you get TONEX SE, which is a dumbed-down version of the full TONEX software titled TONEX Max. In practice, you're getting a much smaller number of available tone models than you would if you bought the full TONEX pedal, which in my view makes a big difference in terms of variety. So here I would advise you to take a look at the IK website and see if you're fine with the amount of tone models on board. If you're not, you should probably consider the bigger TONEX pedal. The second app is the TONEX Editor app, which is used to edit parameters on your pedal. You'll pretty much be using this one to decide which presets you want inside of the pedal and which ones you want to assign to the AB and on-off modes. And you can also assign sounds to the AB and on-off slots via the internal browsing mode, but this is a bit cumbersome to do if you're on a gig or at the studio. It can be done live, but it's quite risky. If you really need more than two sounds, then TONEX Pedal or the new TONEX One Plus may be a better fit for you. If you've watched my full review of the TONEX Pedal, you'll know how much I like the TONEX sound in general. To repeat some of what I said in that video, TONEX was the first plugin that really made me feel like it could be my entire setup, and I don't necessarily need a tube amp and analog pedals to have a great sound. And that's also true here, since this is exactly the same sound engine, and TONEX One is a player for TONEX presets more than anything else. Amp sounds in the TONEX ecosystem sound absolutely great and very realistic, but that will, of course, depend on the captures you have, and there's also some really low quality captures on TONET you should avoid. But that's a necessary con of having a fully open marketplace, I guess. So amp sounds in TONEX One are absolutely fantastic, provided you're using high quality tone models, but keep in mind you can only use two at a time in the AB slots. And of course, the new TONEX One Plus has both a MIDI connection and a mobile app, which will help a lot if you're looking to use more than two amps on a live show or in the studio. But let's address that a little later in the video. The TONEX suite of effects is not the best on the market, I'll say that. It's not as good as Helix, Boss GT1000 or any of the high-end modelers like Effects, but it is nonetheless an extremely competent suite of effects that can get the job done 9 times out of 10. Inside TONEX One, in all the 20 presets, you can have any combination of the following effects: noise gate, compressor, which can be pre or post amp, modulation, delay, and reverb. Now, these aren't the most comprehensive effects you'll see in your life, not even close, but these all sound very good and complement the TONEX sound really well. You don't have a lot of options to choose from. For instance, you have 5 types of modulation: chorus, tremolo, phaser, flanger, and rotary, but there's no subtypes for any of them. There's only one type of chorus, one type of tremolo, etc. And when it comes to delay, you can do tape or digital, normal or ping pong, and that's about it. That's not to say that these aren't high quality effects, they absolutely are, but they're still a bit limited when compared to the competition. But again, you're getting some of the best amp sounds in the market, plus a collection of very good effects for about $150 to $200. That's kind of insane if you ask me. Build quality was and still is my biggest gripe with the TONEX pedal. That thing is just not very well built in my opinion. I mean, it's sturdy, yes, and it'll be okay when used on the road for sure, but for its price point, I just think the choice of materials is very disappointing. The foot switches, the knobs, and the plastics on the TONEX pedal are really low quality. But good news, that's not the case at all here. In fact, the TONEX One is very well built and impressively so. The single foot switch is very good, not the best I've seen, but still good. The input and output jacks are sturdy, the big knob has a decent amount of resistance to it, which makes it feel premium, and the small knobs are also very good. This was definitely my biggest gripe with TONEX pedal, and I feel like IK solved it completely with this version of TONEX. TONEX One is very well built and feels like a premium mini pedal. So who is this pedal for? There's a number of considerations you should have in mind here. TONEX One is completely at home when used as an amplifier replacement in your pedal board. You can use it as the last pedal in your chain, feed it all your effects from the front, and go straight to the audio interface or the front of house from the output jack of the pedal. You can even use the AB system to have a preset with stereo reverb and delay after the amp, which could alleviate the fact that there's no effects loop here. But if you're using it live, using the TONEX's reverb and delay and some pedals on the front could lead to a bit of tap dancing on stage if you need to turn on distortion and reverb simultaneously, for example. So keep that in mind. Another great way to use this pedal is as an emulation of a drive pedal. Instead of buying multiple expensive single-use distortion pedals, you can buy a TONEX One and put 20 different distortion pedals inside of it and change them as often as you want. And what about the new TONEX One Plus? Well, the new entry in the TONEX family is gonna be far more expensive than I think it should be, priced at a whopping €272 on Thomann right now, and a more acceptable €249 on Sweetwater. Both of those come with sound packs from IK Multimedia though, which I think it's why they made these units so much more expensive. And those may or may not be useful to you. Just be sure to read the fine print before you pull the trigger on any TONEX products to see if it includes any expansions and what they are. Now, the new One Plus includes a MIDI connection, which will allow us to use an external MIDI foot switch to control the pedal. And that means we can now access all 20 presets simultaneously on a live gig situation, for example, which is an absolute game changer. The other function the One Plus introduces is a mobile app. So you can now edit your parameters with your phone without having to rely on the not-so-great browse mode to change the presets assigned to the AB slots. And look, those are great functions, and even though I don't like apps, and I would prefer to use my phone less, not more, I recognize this feature and the MIDI function can be useful to a lot of players. But it all comes down to price, doesn't it? At the current price I'm seeing on Thomann, I would have to pay more than twice what I paid for the TONEX One just a week ago, and I seriously don't think those functions are worth paying double for. And that price also places it seriously close to the full-featured TONEX pedal. So I would definitely tell most people to just save an extra $100 and go straight to the big pedal. Because the upgrade from TONEX SE to TONEX Max in itself is quite worth the price difference. So I don't see the TONEX One Plus as a great upgrade, personally, especially at this price point. If you need the MIDI function, I think you probably need the TONEX pedal anyway for its much greater variety of amp captures and overall more complete interface. And if you don't need the MIDI function, then I find the app feature to be just a nice bonus, not something you need. If the One Plus costs you an extra $30 or so, then I think that's an acceptable upgrade to get those functions if you need them, but more than that makes it, in my opinion, a bad deal when you can get a TONEX pedal instead. But only you can tell if you want to pay extra for a phone app and a MIDI connection. It highly depends on your situation and your personal preferences. Personally, I don't think the price difference is worth it, especially when I paid €135 for the TONEX One. In my case, I would have to pay double for the One Plus, which would be insane. In conclusion, I really like the TONEX One pedal. It does a lot for the price point, at least the price point I got, and it does so with a lot of sound quality. I think it's a great purchase for a lot of guitar players, but for others the bigger TONEX pedal may be a better investment. I think it's all dependent on what you want to do with your rig and how much money you want to spend. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and let me know in the comments, what do you think about the TONEX One? Worth the price? Anyway, thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.